Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason. I'm speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And today I'm doing another movie review of a Blu-ray that I own. And if you've watched my other videos, you know the next movie I'm going to be touching on is the third movie in the trilogy of the Back to the Future. Because I've done Back to the Future and Back to the Future 2 were my last two. So of course this one, as you would guess, is Back to the Future 3. Of course, I got my good old Back to the Future, I think 30th anniversary trilogy booklet. Really great. Love this booklet. I will show there's the Back to the Future 3 part of the booklet. Got the poster there. I love all the posters. I never knew, because you got the first one is just Marty, it's just Michael J. Fox with the DeLorean, and then the second movie you got two people, and so one it's Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd in the DeLorean, and then in the third one you got Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, and then Mary Steenburgen, a new character in that movie. So you got three people for the third movie. I really like that. I just love it. It shows all the bonus features over here. A lot of bonus features, and I'll talk about a little bit. There's also a third disc, just a bonus disc, has more bonus features over here. So really cool. A lot of great bonus features. I love bonus features so much. And there's the last part of the, just more pictures and stuff like that. But in the back, kind of shows more. I love this book. I love special features. I love commentaries, audio commentaries. I love watching all those. When I get a Blu-ray, I watch the movie usually, and then after that, I usually watch it again with the audio commentary, and I'll watch all the special features. So it takes me a couple days at least to get through a new Blu-ray or DVD that I buy. This was great. So Back to the Future 3 came out in 1990. Stars again Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Thomas F. Wilson as the bad guy again, and Leah Thompson as Marty's mom, and new character in this one. Of course, no George McFly, Crispin Glover, who wasn't in the second movie. Of course, not back for the third movie, so he probably would have been, but because Crispin Glover wanted to get paid more and whatnot, would not agree to the contract. He's not in these movies, which is too bad. It's a great character. Would have been good for these, but they had to do without him. They had, like I said, Mary Steenburgen's kind of new, one of the big characters of this one. And first movie I think I've ever seen Mary Steenburgen in, actually. I didn't know who she was at the time when I saw it when I was a kid, but now I know kind of who Mary Steenburgen is, and anytime I see her, and she's in a lot of stuff, I see her all the time, both movies and TV, she's everywhere. And anytime I see her, though, I always think of her in Back to the Future 3. That's the movie I think about her in all the time. Of course, directed by Robert Zemeckis again. He directed the whole trilogy, and written by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, who wrote together quite a bit. And Back to the Future 3, and this one kind of starts off right where the second one ended, where Doc gets struck by lightning on the DeLorean. He's in the time machine. He gets struck by lightning, and he travels back to 1885, so 100 years into the past. And so Marty is left in 1955, so he has to find Doc from 1955 to help him figure out how to get back to 1985. But only this time, when he finds the Doc from 1985, who goes back to 1885, stores the DeLorean into like a cave or something, and gives them instructions how to get to the DeLorean. And as they get to the DeLorean time machine, they find and it's kind of in a cemetery area, they find a tombstone for Doc Brown, who was murdered in 1885. Or they find out that they see his tombstone that he died, and then they find out from newspaper clippings that he was murdered by who else? Biff Tanner's like great-great-grandfather, Buford Mad Dog Tanner. He gets murdered by him in 1885, and so Marty wants to go back in time to 1885 to warn Doc and try to save his life from getting murdered. And that's the basic plot of the movie. He goes back to 1885, and now they got to try to figure out how to get both Doc and Marty to 1985, their original timeline. And of course, the DeLorean's not working because got punctured, the gas, whatever, got punctured, the fuel got leaked, and in 1885 there's no gas or fuel. There's none, I guess, invented at that time. Of course, everybody's using a horse and carriage, so they have to figure out different ways or different ideas on how to get the DeLorean to 88 miles per hour so that it can travel in time again. And yeah, so that's the basic story of it. Also, Doc Brown meets a school teacher played by Mary Steenburgen. I think her name's Claire, and he, of course, this scientist, this kind of, somewhat eccentric scientist who kind of keeps himself and doesn't have romantic relationships. It's kind of an older guy at this point. I don't know how old he's supposed to be, but he's never been married, never had any kids or anything like that. And all of a sudden he's smitten by this school teacher who also likes science. So, of course, he loves her because they both love science and they can talk about science. And, of course, he's attracted to her also. So all of a sudden he falls in love for the first time in his life with this new girl, Claire, the school teacher. And now he doesn't really want to go back to his old life and wants to stay with her. So it's this interesting, difficult decision for him in the movie. Of course, and then Buford Tanner, like I said, he's an outlaw, Biff Tanner's great-great-grandfather, and he wants to kill both Doc and Marty, so they also deal with Buford Tanner and his gang also are getting into the mix anyways. So that's the movie. My backstory with this movie, I guess, like I said, the Back to Future movies, I don't remember exactly when I watched it. I know I watched it probably when I was a kid, like I say, 10 years, 9 years, 8 years old, maybe before that. I must have caught it on TV or a videotape, a cassette tape at some point, or my parents might have taped it off of TV on a cassette tape, a blank cassette tape, or VHS tape, I should say. But I remember watching this quite a bit as a kid, along with the first two movies. I watched the whole trilogy a lot. I think I can have a lot of fond memories of watching this trilogy. It was one I've always enjoyed, and as I've gotten older, I like it even more. This whole trilogy is one of the great trilogies of all time. Not a bad movie in this three, which is very hard to do. It's hard to make three good movies together. It's very hard to do. It doesn't happen very often. So very well done on this movie. And so I've always thought this was the weaker of the two. I think it's probably always been my least favorite of the two. Not to say it's a bad movie, but it's still good. But so much different, I feel like, because the first one you go from 1985 back 30 years in the past to 1955, and Marty's meeting his parents as teenagers and dealing with that and trying to get back to his timeline. The second movie goes into the future to 30 years in the future to 2015, and and he sees what happens to his kids. So that kind of changes the plot. Really changes because of that. And so for the third movie, this is much different because instead of staying kind of in the timeline of the parents and the kids, he goes 100 years into the past. So his parents aren't involved at all in the storyline. So his ancestors are involved and so forth. And it's mostly just a Marty and Doc movie. It's really just kind of like a buddy movie. More than the other two, maybe even. And of course, it's more of a Western. The first movie, I don't know, it's just a nostalgic movie of the 1950s. Second movie is this futuristic movie, a lot of futuristic ideas. The third movie is this old Western movie. So interesting genres. This is a completely different genre from the first two, it feels like, as they're dealing with this time period. So not a lot of backstory there, but that's what I think about that. So now going to watching it recently, how does it hold up to me today? Very well. Like I said, I really love this trilogy. I even really like this movie. When I was watching these three movies, I knew the third one was the one I didn't like maybe the least. But watching it again, I absolutely love this movie. I would say I still would rank it third and rank the first one definitely the best of the three. One of my favorite movies of all time, Back to the Future. Second movie, I think very good. Really like it. Third one is just, I put it slightly below the second one, but not much. It's almost the same, basically. Pretty. I like them both quite a bit the same. What I love about this movie, the whole trilogy in itself, is it's so funny. Like watching all three together, I laughed a lot. Like it's almost a comedy. I don't know what you call it, a sci-fi, action adventure. It has some drama in it. Also very funny trilogy. I laughed quite a bit in this one. Maybe I laughed more in this one than the other two. In fact, there's a lot I don't remember about the movie. So when I was watching it, there's some lines that really caught me off guard. Um, like I love one line I'll talk about is when Marty is in 1955 talking to Doc of 1955, and he's going to go back into 1885. Doc says to him something like, Marty, you're not thinking fourth dimensionally, or something like that. And Marty's like, what does that mean? Then he goes back to 1885, and he's talking to Doc from 1985, and one scene, and Doc says to him again, because this is a different Doc from a different timeline saying the same thing, and he says, Marty, you're just not thinking fourth dimensionally. And Marty, or Michael J. Fox, says, yeah, I've been told that a lot lately. And I was like, I thought that was such a funny line. I didn't remember that before, but it's just so funny that Doc from two different timelines keeps telling him the same thing. Of course, he doesn't understand it. I don't understand what that means, but it's a great line. I think great comic timing from Michael J. Fox. It was just really great. Another line I love is there's a great callback from the first movie where I think Marty, he of course changes his name to Clint Eastwood because he doesn't want to tell him, of course, he's a McFly because there are McFlys there already. And so he says Western, the most famous Western name you can think of, which is Clint Eastwood, which is of course an actor's name who did Westerns. And so everybody calls him Clint Eastwood throughout the movie. In one scene, he finds a picture of a tombstone with his name, or tombstone with Clint Eastwood on it, who has died because Buford Tanner's going to murder him. And when he sees this, he says, "Great Scott!" And Doc says, "I know, it's heavy." And that was a great callback for the first movie when Doc Brown says, "Great Scott," which is like kind of a signature line, "Great Scott." Very tense. And Marty says, "Oh, it's heavy." And of course, in 1955, no one ever talks like that. So the Doc of 1955 was like, "Heavy? What's all this heavy? Is there a problem with gravity in the future?" Anyway, so that was a great part in the first movie, and I love that callback in this movie to that point. And I probably caught it because I saw all three movies pretty close to each other. And so when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's great from the first movie. So hilarious. Great screenwriting. I said all three movies, the script is so good. Like I said, because of all these great callbacks that they do. Hilarious and just a very imaginative, creative script, all three. But yeah, there's a lot of funny parts to this. I love Thomas F. Wilson. I think he's hilarious. And he's so good as the bad guy. This time he's almost unrecognizable as playing his great-great-grandfather, Buford Tanner. He's got this great Western, and of course, love the costuming. Got the great mustache and the makeup and everything kind of makes him look different. And he's talking in this, old Western bad guy kind of voice and kind of the way he talks. But he's kind of stupid. I love that Michael J. Fox throws out words that he doesn't know, and he has to look at his gang, and they have to tell him what the word means because he doesn't know. Is he insulting me? I don't know what he's, kind of thing. And one time, Marty says, "You're a jerk," which I think jerk is like a word they didn't use back in 1885. It's more of a modern language, term. So he calls Buford a jerk, and Buford looks at his gang like, what does jerk mean? And his gang goes, I don't know, like nobody knows what jerk means, so he doesn't know that he was insulted at that point. So a lot of great comedy there between those two. And I just really like the Western. I think it's a good Western movie, actually. Like I said, it could be called a sci-fi, it could be called action-adventure, comedy, Western. You can call it a Western, I think. And I like a good old Western, and so I thought they did a really good job with the Western genre, with the costuming and the set designs. And I like when Michael J. Fox first walks in. It's the same as when he walks in the first movie. He walks to 1955, sees Hill Valley as it is in 1955. Second movie, he sees Hill Valley in 2015. And then this one, he sees Hill Valley in 1885. So that's another kind of great callback to the other two movies. Each movie has him walking into town for the first time and seeing what it looks like. And you see the bell towers being built in 1885 or something like that. All these things that appear later are just now being built. So great. I love all that. Love the shootouts and all that. So yeah, it's actually, to me, in my opinion, it makes it a good Western. Best scene in the movie. It's hard to say. I was thinking about what's the best scene. I don't know if I can think of one scene that is better than the other ones. There's a couple great scenes, I think, though. Like I said, the shootout scene with Buford Tanner. When Buford comes, they set a date to when they're going to have their shootout. And of course, Marty's expecting to be leaving before the shootout. Of course, he can't compete with the outlaw Buford Tanner, who shoots people all the time. Uh, Even though Marty is actually a good shot, it turns out he's because he plays video games in the future that uses a gun or something like that. He's actually a good shot. But that whole part is pretty good. Of course, first you got Christopher Lloyd, who's drinks whiskey and then knocks him out. Just a sip of whiskey, or just I think one shot of whiskey knocks him out. And then Buford's there, and he's trying to wake up Doc, trying to escape. Another favorite line of mine, and I don't know if this is supposed to be so funny, but maybe the line that made me laugh the most is Buford and his gang are outside, and come on out, or you're yella. And Doc wakes up, and Marty's like, says to the bartender, maybe owner of the saloon, do you gotta have a back door? And the saloon owner or the bartender says, yeah, it's in the back. And I was like, I don't know if that's supposed to be funny, but I'm guessing it is, because I laughed really hard at that. Do you have a back door? Yeah, it's in the back. Like, what else would it be? That's the only place a back door can be, is in the back. But yeah, and of course he uses the sequence of the movie, real movie. I don't know which movie it is. It's one of the spaghetti western movies of Clint Eastwood, like The Good, Bad, and Ugly or something, where he puts a part of a stove, which is made of like this really hard steel. So when he gets shot, the bullet hits the steel of the stove top, whatever, and then he falls down, but then he gets back up and hits him with it. That's a great callback to the second movie, where they see that scene in the movie, actually. Yeah, it's great. The dance sequence is really good, where they have this big town dance, and Christopher Lloyd, of course, is trying to romance Claire, and then Buford Tanner wants to shoot and kill Doc because of a dispute over his horse. And then Marty comes in and saves the day, and then they have the whole, you're Yella, and then no one calls me Yella, and then they set the date, like I said before, of the shootout. That's a great sequence, and ZZ Top makes a appearance as part of the band there. And Rick Strickland, who's the principal in the first movie, his another kind of comedy thing is his great grandfather, whatever, is like the sheriff of this town. So everybody, this funny idea of like all the Stricklands are authority figures. The last one in 1985 is a principal, which is kind of a funny idea, I think, of the whole movie. Like Buford Tanner, like how is Tanners are always horrible. Biff Tanner, his grandson in the future, Griff Tanner is like he has a gang in the future, and he's trying to, steal. He's a criminal. Biff Tanner's a horrible, really horrible bully who even tries to molest Marty's mom at one point. He's terrible, and then his great great grandfather, whatever, is a murdering outlaw. So it's this idea like all the Tanners that's bad blood. All the Tanners are terrible people. And it's like, I don't think that's really how it works in real life. Just because your great grandfather is a jerk doesn't mean you have to be a jerk. But that's part of the comedy of the movie that I enjoyed quite a bit. Also, the last train sequence, of course, is really good, where they hijack this train and try and get the train up to 88 miles per hour so they can get in the DeLorean and go out. And then Claire, though, comes in, and so now Doc has to save Claire, save her life, and of course, great last sequence there. So best character, again, I said the last two. Christopher Lloyd is my favorite as Doc Brown. My favorite character of this whole thing. Absolutely hilarious. Is Great Scott, 21 gigawatts. His kind of freakouts are just absolutely hilarious. And he's such a good actor, Christopher Lloyd. Love him in this. Probably my favorite. Secondly, Michael J. Fox is so good. This is definitely, if you think Michael J. Fox, you have to think Back to the Future. He's so good in this character. He's kind of a cool character. He plays guitar, skateboards, has a good-looking girlfriend. What's not to like about him? It kind of stands up to bullies, actually. Uh, yeah, just great character. Michael Fox totally hits it out of the park. And then thirdly, I'll say Thomas F. Wilson. The whole trilogy is so good as the bad guy. He's got the good look. He's good, kind of a big guy. Real jerk character. You love to hate him. He's one of these love to hate bad guys. It's such a jerk. Yeah, so that's all my favorite characters there. Like I said, not much to say about the special features. I already said, kind of like the first two. You got a lot of making of features there, and then audio commentaries. You got a Q&A. So it's so much information on Back to the Future. In fact, there's like even a Back to the Future documentary that you can find on YouTube. That's all about Back to the Future, which is a great documentary. Tells you a lot about all the stuff, behind the scenes stuff. Anyway, so yeah, overall amazing Blu-ray. Love this Blu-ray, 30th anniversary. Totally would get this Blu-ray package. I don't get very many of these. I usually get the movies individually. It's very rarely, but of course I like all three movies, so it's like, why not get the whole trilogy in one? But yeah, so my grade for this movie, 4 out of 4, strong recommend. Same, I gave the second movie a 4 out of 4. First movie I gave a 5 out of 5. I say 4 out of 4. 4 out of 5, sorry. I gave this movie a 4 out of 5, and I gave the second movie 4 out of 5. First movie I give 5 out of 5. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen, and definitely up there. I've thought about it, but if I ever try to do a video on like my favorite trilogies, this is definitely like top 5 trilogy of all time. But yeah, so that's my review of Back to the Future 3 and my whole trilogy of Back to the Future. So I'll move on to another movie away from Back to the Futures after this. So please tell me what you think about Back to the Future and Back to the Future 3 and your memories of watching it. I love reading the comments, and I just appreciate you watching this video and subscribing. Thank you.